A very good morning to you. It's good to see you right here on Your World. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and today we're going to talk about a subject that a lot of people would rather not talk about, and this is as far as our taxes are concerned. But here's the thing. It's a very good thing, okay, that we'll be addressing this morning, and this is as far as tax amnesty is concerned. So what exactly is it, and what do you need to know as far as tax amnesty is concerned? You want to stick around until the end of the show. If you have any question as far as tax amnesty, all right, is concerned, feel free to do so, and that is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. Like Kiare always says, tulipe ushuru tujitegemee. Okay, so this morning we'll understand more as far as tax amnesty and who qualifies for the same. How do you apply, or what is the application process for the same? And for those people who either file returns, all right, or who have not ever filed, okay, do they also qualify for tax amnesty? So many questions as far as that is concerned. So like I said, you want to stick around until the end of the show, because my panelists this morning will give us all the answers that we need to have as far as tax amnesty is concerned. And I am talking about Esther Wahome, who's the Deputy Commissioner, Policy and Tax Advisory, Domestic Taxes Department. Good to have you this morning.
My pleasure.
You look very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sparing your time really to come and talk to us as far as tax amnesty is concerned. And I was listening to one of the, what is it called? Interactions. Of course, Kiare, runs this on your YouTube channel. Yeah. And you're talking about tax and amnesty. And before the presentations, somebody was asked, so what exactly do you know about tax amnesty? And one said, this is the forgiveness of sins as far as our taxes are concerned. Yeah. So thank you so much, really, for sparing your time to come and help us and educate us as far as tax amnesty is concerned. It started in September 1st, yes, okay. September 1st. So can we just get back to the basics and first of all understand taxation and the whole process, how it works, before we now come to understand the amnesty aspect of this?
All right, yeah. Thank you, Winnie, and I'm glad to be here this morning. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very broad question. Yeah. I would require a number of days stationed here to be able to just broadly explain to you how tax works. But right. In brief, tax is administered in two broad ways. That is through customs for importation of goods, and then domestic taxes. So if you look at the way KRA is structured, broadly we have two revenue departments. That is the customs department and domestic taxes department. So customs will then mainly deal with taxes that relate to import. And customs administration is really broad because it's an East African affair rather than just a Kenyan affair. So we administer it through the East African Customs Management Act. Now for domestic taxes, then we have a number of taxes that then the government uses to be able to finance the economy, starting with the basic one, income tax. So income tax is what we need you're paid. What you get as your income, then we need tax to be paid on that. Then we have what we call value-added tax, and this is sort of a tax on your consumption. So when you go buy goods or buy services, then VAT is charged, value-added tax, and this is mainly by the person who has supplied you those goods. Then we have excise tax. Excise tax again is, we call it a sin tax, is mainly to try and deal with certain, what are they called, certain quote-unquote sins, although we have broadened it as also a tax collection measure. So you'll find it mainly on alcohol, cigarettes, tobacco, and such kind of things, but it has now broadened to services like money transfer, airtime. So excise again is charged by the person who is offering the service or the good or manufacturing the excisable goods. Then of course we have the miscellaneous taxes, levies and taxes. In addition to customs, when you import taxes in Kenya, then you'd have certain miscellaneous levies, like road development levies and such kind of a thing. So then it means the administration of the domestic taxes is consolidated into what we call Tax Procedures Act. So the Tax Procedures Act has been put in place to sort of simplify the administration of domestic taxes. So you'll find the VAT, the income tax, the excise, the miscellaneous, all domestic taxes, for purposes of ease of administration, is dealt with through the Tax Procedures Act. And this is where the topic of tax amnesty has then been embedded. And it's good for us to understand that, because then the question I'll be asked is whether then the amnesty covers all taxes.
I was about to ask the same.
Yes, so the amnesty has then been embedded in the Tax Procedures Act, meaning it is applicable to the taxes that are administered under the Tax Procedures Act. That is the domestic taxes, VAT, income tax, excise and miscellaneous levies. So broadly, that's the tax framework. Of course, we have tried over time to simplify some of these taxes by looking at our MSMEs mainly, how easily can they be able to pay some of the taxes, by coming up with things like turnover tax, monthly rental income, just a simplified way of saying at the end of the month, I made sales of X, let me pay this X, you know, in terms of, instead of having to then file elaborate returns. Unlike the ordinary income tax, where then you have to file your income, your expenses, you probably have to go through an audit. So we are trying to, over time, then simplify for purposes of MSME. So broadly, that's the tax framework. And so the tax amnesty really has been anchored in the Tax Procedures Act. But probably even before we come to the tax amnesty, we need to understand where we have come from. So usually if you don't pay any of these taxes that I've talked about, the VAT, the excise, the income tax, the government expects that revenue. So if you don't pay, then it means the government will have to borrow to finance whatever you'd have financed through taxes. So what the law does is then penalize you if you don't pay the tax on time. And that would be a penalty, a flat penalty. Depending on the tax head, we have various penalties, but again, through tax administration, we've tried to simplify it to just a penalty applying commonly to just the common offenses, a flat penalty. But then the longer you take with the taxes, then we charge you interest because it means the government will still have to incur that cost. So it means then for people who have defaulted in payment of taxes, they have over time accrued what we call penalties and interest. So in the past, we have tried, of course, to bring in an amnesty in one way or the other, but it was really tailored towards either a specific offense or a specific sector or probably a specific period. So we would say if you come voluntarily and declare your taxes, we'll give you an amnesty. Or we will abandon. Amnesty simply is a pardon. So we are saying you owe us this much, but we pardon you for that much. So our law has then over time had provisions for what we call waiver of these penalties and interest. So you can apply to the commissioner, and the commissioner will, based on certain grounds, which are very stringent, consider waiver of the penalty and interest. Of course, for purposes of transparency in administration and making sure that it's not abused, then there are certain levels that are put in place for this waiver of penalties and interest. So in the past, we've had a certain amount, of course, being waived by the commissioner and a certain amount being forwarded to the National Treasury for their consideration upon recommendation by KRA, so that then we have sort of a two-stepped oversight of the waiver of penalties and interest. So before 1st of September or before July 1, we then had that provision of penalties and interest waiver, which taxpayers had to apply and demonstrate hardship, equity, you're unable to bear the expense, you probably are in a financial crisis, and then we would be able to consider the waiver. So what happened then in the last year's Finance Act is that we abolished that provision of waiver of penalties and interest, which is why this conversation is very important. Because then we give taxpayers a window of between September to 30th of June 2024, sort of a free ticket. You don't have to justify anything. You don't have to show hardship. You don't have to show you can't be able to pay.
Like come with like hard
come
evidence.
Forward, yes. We are sort of giving, you know, KRA hardly, or the KRA hardly gives, but here we are saying, come forward. You don't have to justify anything. Just pay your principal tax, and then we will waive all the penalties and interest. So, and this basically covers the tax periods 31st December 2022 backwards. So any taxes then for January that have accrued in January 2023 onwards will not be covered by the amnesty. Now, why is a period important? You may ask that. Because accrual of taxes is based on a period. So, for example, income tax, you earned income for the year 2022. Or for us who are employed, you earned income for December 2022. For purposes of collection of that tax, the tax is recorded as due for December 2022. Or if it's income tax, then it's for that financial year of income. So it is very important for us to understand that then the amnesty we are talking about is for a particular tax period. And it's for periods ending 31st of December 2022. So Winnie, that's the broader framework, and that's where the amnesty is.
And you know, one probably someone who's watching us might be thinking, okay, so there's tax amnesty, there is waivers, which you've talked about, and then there's also write-off. So is it different? Is there differences in one and the same? And then we'll come back and talk about, like you said, the period. It's very, very important for all of us to be mindful of the same and to be aware, and that is December 2022. So Kikuja January 2023, no. That will not be covered by the amnesty. But yes, can we just talk about this difference?
So as I've said, in the past we've had provisions for what we call waiver. So waiver and amnesty effectively would result to the same thing. So what you are saying is that you owe certain taxes and the government has considered waiving. So a waiver of penalties and interest and the amnesty we've currently introduced are basically leading to the same thing. We are sort of pardoning the penalties and interest. Now the difference with the tax amnesty is for a particular period. So we are targeting it for 1st of September to June 2023. Waiver has been in existence for the longest time, but that now, as I have said, has already been removed in the law. So after the amnesty, then the taxpayers will not have any window to then be able to get a waiver. Now, what is a write-off? A write-off is where the government considers that this tax cannot be collected and therefore writes off the debt. So it is not the mandate of the taxpayer to come and tell us, write it off. It is the government to evaluate and consider that based on 1, 2, 3 circumstances, we think collection of this tax will be difficult. And this basically applies for both the penalties and interest and also the principal tax. Remember, waiver is mainly for penalties and interest, but write-off can be for the entire tax. However, in the Finance Act, the last Finance Act, we also abolished write-offs. All right. So that now the window we have for the amnesty is what we have to take advantage of. So the government may not have or KRA does not have any legal provision now to do what you're calling a write-off, because there is no law that currently supports that.
All right. So someone might be like, so then who qualifies for the same?
For the amnesty?
Yes, for the amnesty.
I would say that this is an olive branch. It is everybody. And let me say this, everybody in that any taxpayer who has accrued penalties and interest for the period up to 31st of December 2022. And these are the taxes, as I've said, are covered under our tax procedures, then qualifies for the amnesty. So if, for example, your individual tax, say you have a business outside your employment income, and you've accrued taxes for up to December 2022, you have probably not paid the taxes, or you've paid the taxes. So we are looking at it in twofold.
Okay.
So for those taxpayers who've accrued this tax up to December 2022, and they have cleared the taxes, but for one reason or the other, they still have penalties and interest, because maybe they had filed an application for waiver, or maybe their cash flow didn't allow them, or maybe you had not even declared this principal tax. You are the kind that, you know, you didn't want, or based on certain circumstances, you hadn't discovered the error and you hadn't paid the tax. So if you have already cleared your principal taxes, what we are telling taxpayers is that we don't need you to do anything. Okay. As long as these taxes are in our system, the penalties and interest are in our system, then the system will be enhanced to just wipe them out. Automatically remove the penalties and interest. That is if you have cleared the principal taxes. Now, for those people who, for one reason or another, have not cleared the principal taxes, or for taxpayers who would want to come forward now, because we have this window, and say, I owed the government this much, and I want to come forward and self-declare to take advantage or to benefit from the amnesty, then what we are telling you is that you come forward, go to your tax service office or go to our website, then declare the taxes that you owe, and then give us a payment plan.
Okay.
Now,
because then we have to assume responsibility.
Yes, exactly. And you look at it as an olive branch as well, because what we are saying is that for the longest time we've required taxpayers to pay their taxes as a one-off. It's due on 20th, you pay it as a one-off.
Okay.
But the extension we've given through the amnesty is that we are allowing you to tell us how much can you pay per month.
All right.
Up to June 2024, and then whatever you have cleared up to June 2024, then we waive the penalties and interest that are related to it. So taxpayers should be encouraged that you don't have to come and pay the entire principal tax if you're not able to. Of course, for us, we would appreciate the earlier the better, but if you're not able to pay the entire of the principal tax, then the application for the amnesty allows you to then indicate a payment plan. Okay. The caveat here is that the principal tax needs to be cleared by 30th of June to benefit from the amnesty. So I would say everybody, as long as you have a tax debt for the period ended 31st December 2022, would qualify for this amnesty.
All right. And when this was announced, over 17,000 people had already applied for the same. I wonder, I'm pretty sure that number has changed. Right?
Yes.
Okay. How many people have so far?
So period to date, we have recorded around 19,000 applications. All right. And these taxpayers have actually declared over 10 billion of principal taxes. All right. And a number of them have paid around 3.5 billion. Okay. Okay, so the balance of 6 billion is what we are saying then they have put in a payment plan up to June. So we must say that the reception by the public is very good, and we think it's a window that every taxpayer should take advantage of. These things are few, really, you know that. So
it comes once in a lifetime, like they say.
Once in a lifetime. and an open amnesty like this one, where we are saying, you don't need to justify anything. Just pay your principal taxes. No discussions, no negotiations. In fact, as it is now, we've embedded it in the system. So that you don't have to have a lot of discussions with the KRA. Just apply in the system, indicate how you will pay, and then you pay the taxes as you have committed, and the amnesty will apply on whatever is accrued as penalties and interest. Okay, I see that. So someone who's watching us and thinking, culprit, no you mimi, how do I apply? What is that process like? All right, so as I've said, we've really tried to simplify this, Winnie, and it's in recognition of the fact that the easier the better for every taxpayer. And it's probably a direction we are taking as KRA to try and simplify our processes to be able to enable taxpayers to comply. So for the amnesty, we have embedded it in the system. So we have an iTax system that is the platform that enables taxpayers to file and make payment for their taxes.
Okay.
So the number one criteria is that the taxes that you want to apply an amnesty for have to be in the iTax system. So it's a debt that is already in the iTax system.
Okay.
So for those people who probably don't have that debt is where we said if you want to come forward and do a voluntary disclosure, you go to your tax service office, you say, for corporation tax, I feel I owe this much to the government. I want to file a return declaring the new liability. Then you put it in the system. Okay. So first, the liability needs to be in the system. Then you go to the system on the KRA website, or you log in. Every taxpayer has been given a login credential into the iTax platform.
That's true.
So you just log in into the platform, and then there is what we call a debt and enforcement window. Once you open that, it will actually give you the tax amnesty provision. Okay. You just need to click on apply. Then of course, because the debt is already in the system will auto-populate the debt that is in the system. Right. Then you will select what you want to be subjected to the amnesty. So if it's annual taxes like income tax for corporations, then it would be probably per annum. If it's monthly taxes for VAT, excise, or employment taxes, then it will be, per month. Okay. So you just need to go, you select on your platform. The taxes will already be there. Then select, then you say apply for the amnesty. Then the system will of course ask you to indicate whether you want to pay in installments or whether you want to pay as a one-off. Then once you indicate that, you indicate the monthly or the number of installments, the system will also compute for you. If you say, I want to pay within 5 months, then it will give you the monthly installment. And that's it. Submit, you receive your amnesty application form on your email. Okay. And it's as simple as that. After that, then it's just for you to honor the installment payment.
And I was about to ask, so that what happens to this defaulters? Because it's one thing for people to take advantage of amnesty, which is absolutely fantastic, really what KRA is doing. But then, so after they have cleared what they owe, go back to their ways and hoping that one day maybe KRA will give us amnesty again. So to curb this, I would say bad manners, we have some people who genuinely, things happened and they were not able to pay, the principal tax, and then eventually, accrued the penalties and interest, right? But then there's some people who have bad manners, accountability, responsibility, zero. So then what happens? So that we curtail this, that moving forward, we're all accountable, we're all responsible when it comes to our taxes.
All right, thank you, Winnie. I think, as I said, we have removed the waiver window in our law. So the expectation really is first, self-responsibility by the taxpayer. All right. And we also have very strict enforcement measures, which sometimes we don't want to use because it's always easier when you self-comply. Actually, self-compliance is the easiest way to collect taxes. So our encouragement to taxpayers really is, you have come forward, you have declared these taxes, then going forward, please comply. Now, in the event then that you don't comply, then we have mechanisms we've put in place to enforce. So we'll definitely then either demand the taxes, issue you with an assessment. If you don't pay, we have other mechanisms of agency notices attaching maybe your assets or such kind of things. Some of these cases also end up in court. But I don't think as the Revenue Authority would want to get there.
To do that,
So we are encouraging taxpayers, once you come forward, take advantage of the amnesty, then comply. I think, as the Bible says, sin no more. So that's what we are encouraging taxpayers, so that then we encourage a culture of self-compliance. But I think as KRA, we are empowered in terms of enforcement.
Absolutely. Okay, how about we take a break? And then when we come back, I would want to understand, so fine, I mean, there's the iTax platform, which is easier for everybody to, you know, access and, you know, what they have to do. But for those ones who would opt, you know, to come to KRA offices, is there a provision? And then brokers. Okay. So then how do we make sure that that does not happen? There is transparency and people, yes, get their services, but they're also able to be accountable and just clear this once, you know, and for all. Is that also possible? And then how do you know, okay, that you're dealing with a genuine KRA officer, so that we avoid cases of people being conned here and there, all right? But again, like we said, if you have any questions as far as tax amnesty is concerned, feel free to engage with us on our socials, and that is at NTV Kenya, both on X and on Facebook, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. If you want to call in live and ask any question that you have as far as amnesty is concerned, our lines are officially open. But there's so much to cover on the other side of the bricks with us. The show is Your World. All right, welcome back. 32 minutes past the hour. Time really flies, and there's so much that we need to cover as far as tax amnesty is concerned. And like we said when we started the show, or if you missed out on the first part of the conversation, the Finance Act of 2023 introduced a tax amnesty for interest and penalties, like we said, all right, on tax debt by inserting Section 37E to the tax procedures. And again, we have, you know, gotten that process, and Esther's here to really help us understand what that is all about. And this is as far as the Tax Procedures Act of 2015 is concerned. And here's the thing. So the amnesty is applicable to, again, Esther took us through this whole process. Number one, a person with penalties and interest, but has no principal taxes owing for periods up to, like we said, December 31st, 2022. Okay, and the second is a person who has a principal tax accrued up to 31st December 2022, but pays the outstanding principal tax debt by 30th June, and this is of 2024. So mark those dates, okay? So 31st December 2022 and 30th June 2024 is when the forgiveness of our sins that ends, all right? So one might ask, so then what happens after June 2024? Maybe I had committed to pay by that time, and then one way or the other, I'm not able to pay my principal tax, right? And this is as far as what I owe the government and KRA. So what happens? All right,
good question, Winnie. Yeah. One of the key conditions for the amnesty to apply is that the principal tax has to be cleared by 30th of June 2024. So if then you've committed to pay, and for some reason you've either paid part of it or you've not paid any of it, the one who has paid part of it, then the waiver will only apply to what you have paid. Okay, so the waiver of penalties and interest will apply to the extent of the principal tax that you have cleared. If then you have not cleared, of course, we go back to our enforcement to collect. And unfortunately, in this case, there's no window for you to then come back and apply for the waiver, because the law, as amended, has no provisions for the waiver. So it is very critical for taxpayers to really take advantage of this window.
I mean, and it's a good, I mean, listen, so this is what we are offering you, okay? As far as your penalties and interest, we will take care of that, okay? You just do your part. And it's the best thing that people can do, and just be responsible enough to just pay what they owe, because again, like KRA says, tulipe ushuru tujitegemee. Okay, all right. And you talked about the process, but just in case someone missed out on that part, because it's very, very important for people to understand how then do they apply for the same. So you said iTax is one of the platforms, but is there also provision where people can come in, you know, physically and take care of what they have to do?
So we acknowledge that would have probably taxpayers who want to remit, but they are not able to maneuver through our iTax system. And there are those who are able. Of course, as I said, the tax administration and collection is now through the iTax platform. And we do that, of course, to reduce incidences of human interaction, because that's where you'll start finding you know, the unnecessary or the unacceptable behavior. So we have intentionally embedded this in the iTax platform. So any taxpayer who pays their taxes or files their return, they then do it through the iTax platform, and you can be able to access the iTax platform. Actually, if you go to kra.go.ke, you'll be able to find even the guidelines that we've put in place, accessible to all taxpayers. There's even a step-by-step guide on how you can be able to go to your iTax page and apply. It actually takes you to your iTax page, then next step, until you're able to submit. However, in case you want to benefit from the amnesty and you don't know how, or you have tried and you're not able to do that, then you are encouraged to visit your tax service office. So what is a tax service office? Because we serve the entire country, we don't expect someone in Mombasa to come to Nairobi.
True.
Okay, so we have tax service offices in all the 47 counties in this country. And we also have a KRA person at every Huduma center. So what we expect this person to do, go to your nearest KRA office, but it is encouraged that you go to your tax service office. That is where then your PIN is. So when you're based in Mombasa, depending on certain criteria, then it means your PIN base will be in Mombasa. Then you can visit that tax service office and have a discussion with them. What these people will do is then they will assist you to file your amnesty application through the system. And I want to make this very clear. Amnesty application ultimately has to be made in the system. If you're not able to do it, then you visit our offices, then the officer should be able to guide you through the process. They can even sit with you, you log in together, go through the application. If you needed to file the taxes, you can file the taxes, because as I said, there are people who don't have debt, but they would want to come forward and voluntarily declare the debt. So they'll help you file the debt and then help you apply for the amnesty. So our offices are open. And of course, you can call our customer care office. And for those in Nairobi, you can visit our Times Tower office. But the ultimate message here is that that application needs to be loaded online in the iTax. And it's good, Winnie, for visibility, so that we are also able to see who has applied, who is benefiting. Because when we do it manually, then sometimes it becomes difficult. We can end up on 30th of June, it's not been effected in the system. The law is no longer applicable. So we are really encouraging taxpayers to come forward. And our team is on high alert on this particular one.
And remember that question on how then do I know that I'm dealing with a genuine KRA officer? Are there things that people are able to clearly tell this is a genuine KRA officer, and as compared to this is the person, like you said, visit the offices first of all. That's the most important thing. The process is done digitally, but still for those people who would need assistance, so then how do they know that they're dealing with a genuine KRA officer?
So number one is to encourage you to come to KRA offices. Chances are you'll then meet with a genuine KRA officer. But just in case you have a KRA officer visiting you, you are not in KRA offices, we have simplified that verification. We just dial *572#. And under the inquiries tab, you can actually be able to, using the staff ID to confirm, or their national ID to confirm if this is a KRA, a genuine KRA officer. Because we recognize they are brokers.
Listen,
they are brokers. But again, what we are encouraging, and taxpayers should note this, no one should ask you for cash payment. No one should ask you to make payment to their M-Pesa. No one should ask you for a check. The payment for amnesty is through the KRA online system. And that's the message we've given over time, that KRA no longer accepts cash payments. So it is all paid through the iTax platform. So then the other way to know whether it's a genuine KRA officer is someone who then comes and says, give us the money, we'll go pay for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually now, that's a red flag.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And it's very important really for people to be vigilant because, not everybody is a good person.
Yes.
In the name of, I am helping you. I am helping you.
Yes.
Okay. We all know that sometimes people tend to be last minute. Okay, we have seen that happen, and especially when it comes to filing our returns, people wait until the last day before midnight is when we all want to do that. But what you're saying today is take advantage of this, time period, because then come 30th June 2024, that marks the end of amnesty, right? And like you said, 2 dates that people really need to be keen about. 31st December 2022 is what the amnesty is applicable to. Some might ask, but then what happens for January 31st January 2023 moving forward? Then what happens to that?
Yeah, good question. So first I want to clarify that when we say 31st December 2022, we mean taxes that have accrued before 31st of December 2022. So it can even be 5 years back. Yeah. As long as it's up to 31st of December, the tax period. The tax period is very important because you could have a taxpayer who probably their tax period ended on 31st of December 2022, but the tax was only due in April 2023. And I think we understand that taxes are usually due like a few days or a few months after the close of the period. So for example, for annual, the taxes we pay annually, the tax period ends probably at the end of either the calendar year, or some taxpayers would have a different financial period, like June, September. So what we are saying is, assuming your financial year ended 31st December 2022, there was tax that was due in April 2023. All right. There's a difference there. Because this tax relates to the period December 2022. So that tax is still qualifies. All right. That tax still qualifies for the amnesty. So we come to now the tax period beginning January 2023 onwards. Okay. So we need to understand two things. All right. So the Finance Act came into effect on 1st of July 2023. Yeah. Before this, we had what I had explained earlier. We had the waivers of penalties and interest. So potentially there could have been taxpayers who, for those periods, mainly monthly taxes, or it could be a financial year that ends in between, could have applied for the waiver of penalties and interest. All right. So there was a legislation then that provided for waiver. All right. It is not the same as the amnesty. So the amnesty, as I said, is really sort of, we are not demanding so much from you. We are just telling you, come forward and pay the principal tax. Okay. But under the previous legislation, then there was a provision you can apply for waiver. So for 1st of January 2023 to 30th of June 2023, if a taxpayer had then filed an application for waiver, then we will review that based on the legislation that existed then. Okay. All right. So for those taxes, if you had applied. All right. But after July 2023, then we do not have any legislation supporting application for waiver. Okay. So then it means you have to come forward and pay the taxes inclusive of penalties and interest. So that's the difference. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, because now I'm thinking, so fine. So if I did not apply during, this period up until June 30th, there's nothing much that can be done. You just have to. No. You just have to pay. As the law is now, just strictly speaking, there is no provision for us to even be able to accept that application. So we are actually not even accepting such application after 1st of July 2023, because we administer the law, and the law as is doesn't have a window for waiver. Yeah, it really has to be followed. All right. So like you're saying, during this period, KRA does not really demand a lot. You just come, declare, and then do the whole process, and everything is set. But so for before then, what
was, you know, the requirement for KRA, you know, for someone to come and say, hey, listen, I was not able to pay my principal tax, and, you know, I have accrued this much, you know, in terms of like penalty and interest. So what is it that I needed to prove that genuinely I was not able to pay my principal tax, as compared to, you know, this is the person who, like we said, who have just bad manners and they do not want to pay, they, you know, they default. So what was this requirement in terms of, I want to say, quote unquote, evidence? All right.
So as I'd explained before, there was a provision for waiver or for debt write-off. As I said, debt write-off, the taxpayer needed not to come. It is the evaluation of KRA. And the debt write-off was actually not the mandate of KRA. We would evaluate. If there are reasons to believe that this tax should be abandoned, we will then forward that to the National Treasury. And National Treasury has a mandate to actually report to Parliament on any taxes that have been abandoned. So it's a very strict framework for tax write-off. Now, for waivers of penalties and interest, then the requirement was that you have to demonstrate hardship. So Winnie, as a layman, you have to demonstrate hardship. What would hardship mean? That we need to evaluate your financial position and confirm that you're actually not able to pay the tax. And therefore, it was a very strict evaluation criteria. Because as KRA, we have to be convinced that either you're performing poorly financially, or maybe you are in a special category of disability or such kind of thing, or maybe by payment of this tax, it would resort to, you know, your inability to recover the cost in future. So there was quite a broad criteria for you to evaluate, to justify. But more importantly is that the commissioner only had a limited amount they could waive, and that was around 1.5 million. So the balance has to also be evaluated by the National Treasury. And if they are convinced that then the criteria given by the Revenue Authority is sufficient, then they can be able to waive. So the evaluation criteria was very strict, and taxpayers will tell you that very few of them were benefiting from that waiver. Of course, we had tried to introduce what we called voluntary tax disclosure program that was running for 3 years. But the last year was this year. But that one, remember, was very specific, not for an existing debt. Not for a debt we have come and audited you and discovered. It is for you to come forward and say voluntarily, there's this debt that you didn't know about. I'm coming forward and voluntarily declaring it. So we had introduced that to encourage just the voluntary compliance. So I must say that the waiver criteria was very stringent. Unlike now, which we are saying, really, this is a window that taxpayers should really seriously take. We are not questioning. We are actually not questioning. Just tell us this is the principal tax paid. We waive the penalties and interest.
All right. And did you say, so is it me to for that person who comes and say, hey, listen, so I am committing between now and June 30th, I'm committing to pay this much every single month? Or is that based on the calculations that are done to see, you know, how much this person is able to pay in installments during that period?
Winnie, this is taxpayer oriented, which is why I'm saying it's a very good window for taxpayers. When you file and you say you want to enjoy amnesty on this tax period, as long as you fix your payment plan up to 30th of June, the last payment has to be on or before 30th of June. We are not concerned about how you want to arrange that. So really, it's up to you to come forward and say, I want to pay this. I can afford to pay this per month. These are the number of installments I want, and this is the amount I'm willing to pay.
All right. Like we said, this is open to every single person, every taxpayer.
Every taxpayer, whether you're a big corporation, small corporation, individual taxpayer, you could even be living abroad. but you have accrued taxes. In fact, we are encouraging even those people who are Kenyan citizens living abroad and they have accrued tax liabilities, because this is an online system. You don't even have to fly to Kenya to come and do the disclosure. Just log in on your iTax page, do your self-declaration, and the amnesty is applicable to the very smallest of our taxpayers to the very huge corporations that we have in this country.
Okay, all right. What exactly does it, what is excluded from the tax amnesty? I know we talked about it a little bit during the first part of the conversation, but just in case someone is tuning in right now and found the conversation, you know, halfway through, what is excluded? So that we're very clear. So we need the exclusion really is, it's a very small exclusion. As I said, the domestic taxes are administered through the Tax Procedures Act. So it is taxes that are administered through the Tax Procedures Act, and this is VAT, income tax, excise, miscellaneous levies. Now for customs, these taxes are administered through the East African Custom Management Act. It's not a Kenyan law, it is an East African law. So for customs, then it's not covered. Any duties of customs are not covered in the amnesty. And the other thing that is not covered is what we call a tax avoidance penalty. And tax avoidance penalty is where a taxpayer has intentionally defrauded the government. The ones, like you said, those ones with bad manners. Yes, the ones who have decided, I will do anything and everything not to pay this tax. And then we come and discover you. Then, of course, we charge you with what we call a tax avoidance penalty. It's more of fraud related. So for that, the amnesty doesn't cover. Okay. All right. I'm tempted to ask the punishment for the same, but again, listen, today we're talking about amnesty. Okay. So since this was announced, and like I said, this was effected in September 1st, and again, like I said, we ran all the way up until 30th June 2024. You said up until now 19,000 people have already, you know, applied and finished the process. What was the target? Do you have a specific number? We have a huge debt portfolio, Winnie. Okay. So our hope and faith is that we can be able to cash in on the entire of our debt portfolio. Okay. However, the target is at least by early next year we hit around 50 billion. Okay. This target, depending on how we see people coming forward, can either be expanded or not. But as at now, you can see it's we're talking of 10 billion. Yeah. Taxpayers owing 10 billion in principal taxes have come forward. So you can imagine the original target of 50 billion will be, we will exceed it. Because even if you do an average of that, you can imagine. And as you said, some taxpayers are last minute taxpayers. Of course, we encourage taxpayers not to wait until June. Because then you lose the advantage of being able to pay your taxes in installment. So when you come in June, then you're expected to pay the entire amount in June. So we're also encouraging taxpayers, don't wait until June. But I think for us, we'll keep reviewing this target. We see, but we are hoping to collect as much as possible. And how beneficial is this really to everyone? I know for us, I mean, like you said, Kere, it's sending an olive branch to the taxpayer, which is really good. But then when it comes to our economy, because it's very easy for us as a people to complain and say, hey, you know, debt here and there, cost of living, we're borrowing, you know, outside and all those things, just to put it and to really emphasize on responsibility, our individual responsibility as a people to pay our taxes. Can we just talk about, on a larger scale, how this is beneficial to the economy? Right, Winnie, that's a good question because sometimes people pay taxes thinking of how the taxes will be used and not used in the right ways. True. Yeah. But if you look at our economy currently, we are sort of shifting a bit towards debt financing. Now, debt financing is not very good for our economy because then we become reliant to other countries. So payment of taxes then helps us to shift from that financing to self-financing. And for every sober Kenyan, there's nothing as good as knowing we are self-reliant.
So let us pay our taxes, because some of these facilities that we get, for example, we need the security. No one is harassing you here. What is paying for the security? It is your taxes.
True.
We are enjoying our roads. You can be able to move from one place to another. What is financing that? It's the taxes. So as much as sometimes people want to focus on the negative, if you do a comparative of the negative and the positive, then the positive outweighs the negative. So we need to be self-reliant as a country. And the only way we can do that is if every Kenyan came forward and paid their fair share of taxes. And remember, taxes like income tax, it's a tax on your income. So you've already earned this income through the facilitation of the government to give an enabling environment for you to be able to work and generate that income. So really, even when we are saying the economy is hard and such kind of, you've earned some income, whether the economy is hard or not, but there's some income you've accrued. And all we are saying is, pay the portion of tax you need to pay. Then we can make things better for everyone.
Okay. All right. And unfortunately, we have to sort of like end the conversation right now. And I'm just going to ask this because I know a lot of Kenyans would ask. So this amnesty, again, like we said, this runs through until 30th June 2024. And we do not want to encourage people to wait until last minute, okay? Or wait until next time. Is there a provision where we might also have another carrier extending an olive branch? Okay, maybe like years later after this one that has been effected.
Maybe we can evaluate that based on the past.
Okay.
This is the best we have given.
Okay.
So far.
Take advantage
and
of
the
that,
reason why I'm saying that is that we've never had a window where we are saying it's every taxpayer, it's all taxes, without questions.
Okay.
So you can go back to history and try to look at the amnesty window we have given now and the other amnesty windows we have given in the past. This is a big one because we don't require a lot of interrogation, a review of documents.
And had,
you just actually do it at the comfort of your office or desk and you just need to pay. That's the only condition. Pay your taxes. Now, whether we will have that in future, Winnie, I must say it will be a very difficult one because we have opened up to 31st of December 2022, and that was the latest would have gone because remember the law came into force on 1st of July. So we actually said clear your tax debt up to 31st of December. Clean your ledger. Come forward. We don't want to come audit you later and find debt that you can't be able to pay and we penalize you. So I will say this. Those possibilities cannot be, we cannot eliminate them. But the possibility of getting the kind of amnesty that we have given this time round will be very, very difficult.
Absolutely.
That is open for everyone without interrogation. You just come forward and pay.
All right, so take advantage. That is what we're saying. Okay, all right, so can I give you like 10 seconds to speak to the people?
Yes.
Your camera is this one. Speak to the people in 10 seconds as far as amnesty is concerned.
So I think as we have discussed, we have a good window as taxpayers to just come forward, declare your tax liability and take advantage of this amnesty. As we are saying, if of course you've accrued penalties and interest but you have cleared your tax liability in the past, you don't need to do anything. Our systems will be configured to clear the penalties and interest. But for those taxpayers who are still debating on this fact, we are encouraging you, please come forward. If there's any difficulty in you being able to go to your iTax page and apply, our tax services office are across all the counties in this country. Just go to the nearest tax service office and tell them, I want to benefit from the amnesty, declare your taxes and pay the principal tax. It's as simple as that. So I'm encouraging all of us, let's take advantage of this window. All right, and let's be responsible Kenyans. Tulipe ushuru tujitegemee. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Madam Esther Home, Deputy Commissioner, Policy and Tax Advisory, Domestic Taxes Department. Very insightful conversation this morning. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for staying with us until the end of the show. Now you know better.
So the thing is, take advantage of this small window, okay, that has been provided by KRA, 10 months, okay, since September 1st. So take advantage of that and be a responsible Kenya. So see you tomorrow right here on Your World. But until then, stay safe and God bless. And please, let's be responsible, okay? Goodbye for now.